This is the HoverAir X1, a tiny self-flying drone which fits in your pocket and is essentially a flying selfie stick. Today we're going to test it out in the woods. Unlike most of the videos on YouTube, I am going to try and crash this drone that weighs 125 grams, has no controller, you just palm take it off and let it go. Today's video, we're going to test this thing out. I had a quick play with it yesterday down the beach, testing out some of the intelligent modes. Basically all you do is press this button here, you select whichever mode you want, from follow me to orbit to dolly where it comes in front of you, bird's eye where it goes above you. It's so impressive. But we're going to try it out in a bit more of a treacherous area in the woods. Anyone who's followed my channel know that I've got a bit of form for crashing drones, so I'm certainly not scared to put this thing through its paces. Straight out of the box, once you've registered it, you don't need a smartphone. Like I say, there's no controller. You just press your button and off you go. And that is what we're going to do today. Okay, select the mode that I want.
Bird eye, follow.
Follow is what I want. Okay, are we ready? Take this off. Press the button.
Continue, follow.
All right, so when it's got a red light on, that means it's tracking me. All right, let's go. So the footage straight out of the HoverAir looks quite nice and vibrant. I like it. As you can see, it tracking me there from the other shot. I do a quick change of direction and yeah, it pivots right round and follows me. Doesn't struggle in the oncoming sunlight either. Not too bad. She's following me quite nicely. I'm going to run it up into the trees and see if we lose it up there. Okay, so the one thing I do like about it is it actually tracks you up a gradient. As you can see here, I'm going uphill. Now, it does bounce off this tree branch, but it recovers really well. And then as we go a little bit further in here, we do crash it, but it does stop recording the minute it detects a crash. Right here. So we got a crash there, seems to have held up quite well. Doesn't have obstacle avoidance, it uses some sort of software to pick you out. Quite challenging here today, there's quite a low sun, so let's turn it back on. Come on, mode.
Dolly track.
Right, this is going to dolly track. This should fly in front of me. Here we go. Let's go this way. Tracking me on the bike here, as you can see, a bit of low sun. I cut off to go in the plantation and it just sweeps around and hits a tree branch. But it doesn't crash, it just stabilizes. But it does stop recording and I do get a bit of a scolding from the device.
Obstacles. Continue, dolly track.
I had quite a few crashes there, to be fair, and she's held up quite well. No marks whatsoever. It's got the prop guards on, so the propellers aren't going to get damaged like on a DJI drone if it bumps into the trees. Yeah, she's looking pretty good. So one thing I have realised is I was playing around with the settings in the app yesterday when I was down the beach, and I set everything to quite far. So you have like options, you can have it close, standard or far, and you can also have it at different heights, and I think I've got it at the highest height and the furthest distance, which is probably why it's struggling in these trees. So we'll quickly pop the app back on, change those settings, and then I'm going to try and ride the bike through this area here. I'm going to set it to follow me, and then we'll see how that goes. There's also a quite nice mode called orbit where it follows you in a nice circle. Obviously you couldn't do it in a place like this. The limitations are the lack of obstacle avoidance. I'm not bothered by that. It can bump off the trees, it can fall out the sky. This can only go 15 meters high, so it's never going to cause any major issues. So I'll change the settings in the app right now, and then we'll try again. We might crash again. Right, okay. Flight modes. Okay, so this is where you change it. Flight modes, follow. And then we go to settings. And in here, I've got it set to altitude high, so let's keep it low. Flat shot, distance, standard. Let's try that out. After this flight, I'll tell you a little bit more about it, then we'll go through all the flight modes.
Continue, follow.
Okay, so we're in a bit of a lower light situation here, and you can see the vibrance has just gone down a little bit, but it's tracking me really well through here. And what you can't tell from this footage is it's actually going downhill. It's quite a steep gradient. Now, I don't profess to be any sort of cyclist, but yeah, it's cutting through the woods absolutely fine. As you can see, that's what it looks like when it tracks you. And then I do a quick change of direction here, and it sweeps right round the tree. No dramas. Okay, so yeah, basically, I think that worked a treat following a mountain bike in the woods. I think the previous crashes possibly related to the fact that I had it set to go too high and a little bit further away in the app. Remember, it doesn't have any obstacle avoidance. It just tracks me as a person. But I thought it did quite a good job. It can get up to about 15 miles an hour, so I think this is pitched more at the runners and cyclists as opposed to cinematic content creators who want big, wide open landscape shots. Dolly mode is great. I think I should have set the settings a little bit further away here, but as you can see, it gets the shot you want. Orbit is my favorite mode. It does one complete circle. I mean, in your editing, you could speed this up or whatever. But yeah, cracking. This is my favorite mode within this camera. Follow mode, really like this one. As you can see, I almost go down here, but one thing I like about the HoverAir is it actually goes down with a gradient, so you can see I'm coming down some fairly steep steps here towards the beach, and it's coming with me. Other drones will just stay at the same elevation. Yeah, decent. Bird's eye, you can either do a zoom out or a zoom in. As you can see here, it's zooming out with me at the end of a pier with a dog. It's a good shot, actually. Zoom out mode, does one shot zooming out, then stops, and then does another shot zooming you back in like so. So it can shoot in 2.7K resolution or 1080p in HDR mode. There's a little sensor in the bottom where you can see that's how it knows where to land on your hand. But as far as I can see, that's the only sensor it has. In the kit that I got, it came with 2 batteries. They're 1050 milliamp batteries, so good for about 11 minutes flight time. And one thing I quite like about this is I'm not turning it off in between talking and flights, and the battery's not going down. That is pure flight time. So standby wise, I don't know how long it lasts for. I've got to test that out really. There's no expandable memory, so it's got 32 gigabytes memory within the device, and there's no SD cards or anything. And I believe 8 gigabytes of that is used by internal storage. So what do you reckon? Is this the future of drone technology? I really like it. I think it's cool. I think it's exactly the type of device you might want to take on a family holiday, or somewhere where you don't want a big controller. It isn't that noisy either. My Mini 3 is definitely louder than this. Yeah, I mean, I'll compare it in size to the DJI Mini 3 now, you can see. And the best thing about this is there's no controller, but you got to bear that in mind as well. If you're in the middle of a dolly track flight and you suddenly need to get the drone because there's a dog nearby or whatever, you're gonna have to wait for that drone to return to you once you've stopped and hold your hand out. So it is a bit slower in that respect, but I don't see that as a major issue personally. You can set it to vertical mode, so it does your Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, etc. But as far as I can see, unlike the Mini 3, the gimbal doesn't flip around in direction. It purely just does a software crop. But I have to say, I was a little bit skeptical when I first saw these. I thought, how good can the footage be out of something this small? I'm really impressed. I mean, the different flight modes, there's a snapshot mode where it can take photos for you when you do a gesture like that. There's also a hover mode. Hover mode's pretty cool. Basically, it is like it's on a tripod. So you set it up in the sky and then you walk around and it just follows you around. I've used that quite a bit with the dog, messing around. So really impressed with it, quite like it. Cool mode, which has just been released on a recent firmware update, where you can manually fly it using your smartphone. So I think we'll have to try that out. Let's give it a go. And there's also a really cool feature where you can record the audio on your phone, like walk and talk, and it cancels out the noise from the HoverAir. It's pretty cool. So got screen record on again. Hover mode, let's connect to the device. Connect, it's really quick. There's no GPS with this, so you don't have to wait for anything to find satellites or anything. So flight modes, manual control, use it. Right, manual control, here we go. We're in business. Connected, join, yes please. And what I think manual control will be really cool for is if you do want to get those little cool shots right. So let's start recording. Right, we're recording now. Let's take her off.
Manual control.
Manual control. All right, can you see that? Right, so let's go backwards. Yes, that's pretty cool. Let's traverse right, left. Let's go a bit higher. Now what we can do here is move the gimbal down as well. So if you're looking for those sort of establishing shots where you're sort of walking into a scene, as you can see, manually controlling it now. I'd like to try this paragliding. Before I launch the wing, set it up and see if it can follow me around. Paragliding's pretty slow, be quite cool to see. So pros and cons then. I think it's really fun. I think people are going to love this. It's pitched at your cyclists, runners, families, travellers perhaps. Those who aren't bothered about 4K and 8K resolution. I'm definitely not a pixel peeper. I think the footage out of this is great. If you're looking for, like I say, big sweeping landscape shots from a mile out, then this isn't it. Really good, lightweight, super easy to use. Kids can use it. I mean, there are little gaps in the propeller guards. You couldn't get your finger through there. You have to be mindful of that. It's very robust as well. I mean, you saw today, I've crashed this about 5 times and there's not a mark on it. And, you know, it's landed in water and all sorts. I don't advise this, but if I get sent something to test, and they did send it to me to test, I'm not sponsored or anything. There is a link below, but that's up to you. Just purely wanted to show you what's this like from a outdoors adventure point of view. Now onto the cons. You know, the battery only lasts 11 minutes, but I don't see that as a major issue because you get 2 batteries in the pack. And it charges quite fast actually. I've already mentioned it, the resolution, it would be nice if it could do 4K. Just looking at the sensor, it doesn't look much smaller than the one on the DJI, so I do think future iterations of this may have a 4K sensor in it, a bigger aperture, etc. It's not going to be good in windy conditions. I don't know what the rating is, I'll put it here, but you take this out in a gust and it's going to be everywhere. It's got the horizon lock and all that and stabilization, so it does damper out some of that, but yeah, you're not going to get this out on a windy day. Just shows some of the recovery capabilities of it. I'll give it a proper push around of simulating it bouncing off things in the wind. It's absolutely solid, look at that. And yeah, 15 meters height. It would be good if it had a bit more. Other than that, I'm really quite impressed with it. It's cool. I think for the money, it's a great little bit of kit to have in your arsenal. I certainly will be using it more on my wild camping videos. Just taking it out, especially the ultralight stuff or the bikepacking ones where you just want to get a few shots. This is going to be great. And it's so light. Can't believe how light it is. Yet it doesn't feel cheap. See you on the next adventure, guys. All the best.